All right, let's jump right in. We're talking about stroke recovery today, but maybe not in the way you're used to thinking about it. We're going to reframe this as a high-stakes strategic challenge, a game plan, really, for protecting one of the most valuable assets you will ever own. And boom, that's the core idea right there. This quote just nails it, doesn't it? It sets the entire stage for us. We're shifting our whole perspective from just a health crisis to something more like an economic one. Suddenly, this becomes about asset management, about damage control, and yeah, about a long-term investment strategy. So in this new framework, what even is a stroke? Well, think of it as a sudden, catastrophic market crash. And the real estate in question? That's your brain cells. And they're in immediate danger of being, well, lost forever. This analogy, it's not just a clever turn of phrase. It's powerful because it perfectly captures the absolute, undeniable urgency of the situation. Which, naturally, brings us to the very first phase of our strategy, immediate damage control, right? When a market crashes, what happens? The first few moves you make are absolutely critical. This is the emergency response team rushing in. And here's why that response is so important. This really gets to a critical concept, irreversible resource depletion. Think about it. Unlike money, you can't just go out and earn back lost brain cells. Once that blood flow is cut off, a clock starts ticking, a very, very strict expiration date. So what do? The crucial takeaway here is this three-step chain of action. First, you have to recognize the signs. The whole act fast thing is your guide. Then you call for help immediately. And finally, you get to the professionals who can initiate what's called flow restoration. You can think of TPA or a thrombectomy as like the emergency crew literally blasting open a blocked highway just to get those critical supplies through. Okay, so the immediate crisis is stabilized. Phew. But we can't just dust ourselves off and go back to business as usual, right? No way. Now we have to become detectives. This next phase is all about a forensic audit, digging in to understand exactly what went wrong. And this is the big one, the central question: why did the crash happen in the first place? It's just like in finance, isn't it? If you don't get to the root cause of a failure, you're almost guaranteed to repeat it. So we're basically looking for the origin of the crime. And in our investigation, we've got two main suspects. Suspect number one, an embolic stroke. This is where a clot is the getaway driver, traveling all the way from the heart. Or was it suspect number two, an atherosclerotic stroke? This is where the clot forms right there, on site, in what you could call a rusty vessel. Pinpointing which one it was is absolutely essential, because each of these suspects requires a totally different long-term security guard. In other words, a different kind of medication. All right, emergency handled, investigation complete. Now what? Now we move to the playbook. This is where you create a comprehensive, long-term business plan to actively manage your brain's health assets, not just for tomorrow, but for years to come. And this playbook really boils down to two core components. First up, you've got a permanent maintenance contract. That's just a cool way of saying your medical plan. But then there's the second piece, and believe me, it is just as important. Essential mindset training. And for that, we use some seriously powerful psychological tools. So let's really dig into that mindset piece. There's this concept from a field called internal family systems, or IFS, that's super helpful. The idea is that we all have this guilty manager inside our heads. You know the one? It's that voice that just loves to blame you for past habits. The strategy here isn't to fight that voice. Instead, you give it a new job. You say, hey, thanks for the warning. I hear you, but we're in recovery mode now. Your new job is to help me protect what we have. Here's another awesome tool in action: cognitive behavioral therapy. You've probably heard of it as CBT. Just look at this reframe. You take that automatic negative thought that pops up, my life is over because I have to take pills, and you strategically transform it. The pills aren't some terrible burden. No, they're your invisible shield. They are the very thing that lets you stay in the game. And one more for the toolkit, using neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP, to reframe your entire timeline. I want you to stop looking back with sadness at your before life. That's done. Instead, look forward. Think of it like this. You haven't lost anything. You've just unlocked a new bonus level. Welcome to the strategic life, where every single healthy choice you make is a power-up. So all of this, it leads us to our final section, which is all about winning the long game. Because this isn't just about surviving the crash. It's about building a portfolio, your health portfolio, that is resilient and set up for sustainable long-term growth. So let's get really strategic for a second and apply a little game theory. It sounds complicated, but it's not. Just look at this matrix. If you stop your meds, what's the worst case scenario? It's catastrophic. It's game over. But if you take them, what's the worst case? Some minor side effects, but you're still in the game. The most logical move, the one that absolutely prevents the biggest possible loss, is to stay on the medication. It's what's called the dominant strategy. It's a no-brainer. Okay, so you've got limited time and energy. Where do you focus it for the biggest bang for your buck? Well, that's where the 80-20 principle comes in. The 20% of actions that are going to give you 80% of the results are actually pretty simple. Number 1, managing your blood pressure, and number 2, managing atrial fibrillation if you have it. That's it. That's your highest priority, right there. All right, let's wrap this all up with a really powerful, kind of weird thought experiment. I want you to flip the whole problem on its head for a second. What if your goal wasn't to prevent another stroke? What if you wanted to guarantee one? Seriously, what would you have to do? Well, the playbook for total failure is actually shockingly simple. First, you just ignore your blood pressure. Let it do whatever it wants. Next, you'd stop your meds, probably telling yourself, hey, I feel fine. And finally, you'd just assume that your whole security protocol is no longer needed because, the immediate danger is over. Simple, right? And that brings us to the final and most crucial point of all. The path to success is to just do the exact opposite of everything I just said. From now on, you treat feeling fine not as a reason to cancel your security protocol. You treat it as definitive proof that your protocol is working perfectly. That is how you win the long game.